The sky above Earth had not belonged to humans for 1,000 years. Children grew up beneath silver towers that touched the clouds, towers built by the Alien Council after the fall. Every city on Earth carried the same mark now. Giant circular symbols glowing blue across government buildings, drones floating silently through the streets, and massive warships hanging in the atmosphere like silent gods watching from above. People no longer remembered freedom. Not truly. History had been rewritten generations ago. Schools taught that humanity had once been violent, savage, and incapable of peace. The Alien Council claimed they had arrived to save Earth from self-destruction. According to official records, humans had welcomed them with open arms. But hidden deep beneath the ruins of Old Cairo, inside a forbidden underground archive, Commander Elias Varyn stared at the truth. And the truth was soaked in blood. Dust floated through the dim chamber as ancient holograms flickered across cracked walls. Elias adjusted the old projector while dozens of resistance fighters watched silently behind him. The hologram showed Earth 1,000 years earlier. Cities burned. Alien ships descended from the sky like storms of steel. Nuclear missiles launched from Earth's oceans, only to vanish midair as invisible shields swallowed them whole. Entire armies disappeared in seconds beneath beams of white light. Then came the executions. World leaders kneeling publicly, children crying, human soldiers torn apart by machines taller than buildings. A woman in the crowd covered her mouth in horror. "They lied to us," she whispered. Elias nodded slowly. "They didn't save humanity," he said quietly. "They conquered it." The hologram changed again. A tall alien figure appeared before ruined United Nations headquarters. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal, its eyes glowing pale gold. Behind it stood thousands of armored alien soldiers. "This world now belongs to the Council," the creature declared. "Your species will survive under our guidance." The transmission ended. Silence filled the underground bunker. Everyone looked shaken. Most humans alive today had never seen real footage from the invasion. Possessing historical recordings was punishable by death. The Council erased anything that could inspire rebellion. But rebellion had already begun. Elias turned toward the resistance fighters. "This," he said, pointing at the hologram, "is why we fight." A young man near the back clenched his fists. "Fight with what?" "They control the cities, the satellites, the food supply. They monitor every communication signal on Earth." "And fear," another woman added bitterly. "They control fear." Elias stepped closer to the group. "For 1,000 years humanity survived because we obeyed," he said. "Now they think we're too broken to resist." He paused. "That's exactly why we can win." Far above them, in the skies over Neo Geneva, the Alien Council prepared for celebration. The 1,000th anniversary of humanity's surrender had arrived. Inside the massive floating citadel, alien nobles and human political servants gathered beneath glowing crystal ceilings. Music echoed through enormous halls while holographic banners displayed the council emblem. At the center of the chamber sat High Chancellor Vaylor, the ruler of Earth. Vaylor looked almost human at first glance, but his face was too perfect, too symmetrical. His silver robes flowed unnaturally behind him as if gravity itself obeyed his will. Beside him stood advisor Celine, one of the few humans allowed inside the council. "You seem troubled," Celine said carefully. Vaylor's golden eyes narrowed slightly. "I sense unrest," he replied. Celine remained calm. "Minor resistance cells continue operating in abandoned sectors, but they pose no serious threat." Vaylor walked toward the giant window overlooking Earth. 1,000 ships orbited the planet. Defense stations covered the moon. Humanity looked small from up there, fragile. "I have ruled your species for centuries," Vaylor said quietly. "Humans always resist eventually. It is your nature." Celine hesitated. "Then perhaps humanity has not changed as much as the council hoped." Vaylor slowly turned toward her. "That is precisely what concerns me." Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away, deep inside the wastelands beyond old Siberia, a boy ran through frozen ruins carrying stolen medicine. Sirens echoed behind him. Council drones searched overhead, scanning the snow with red beams. "Stop!" Mechanical voices shouted. The boy ignored them. His breathing burned in his chest as he jumped over broken concrete and rusted machinery buried beneath ice. Finally, he reached an underground hatch hidden beneath collapsed metal sheets. He climbed inside quickly. Below the surface, dozens of starving humans waited in darkness. Children, families, refugees forgotten by the cities. An older woman rushed toward him. "Kai, did you get it?" The boy smiled weakly and opened the bag. Medicine packs, food capsules, hope. The crowd sighed with relief, but suddenly the bunker lights flickered red. Everyone froze. A terrible humming sound echoed from above. Kai's face turned pale. "No," he whispered. Then came the explosion. The ceiling collapsed inward as alien drones blasted through the entrance tunnel. Screams erupted everywhere. Dust and fire consumed the bunker while armed security machines descended into the shelter. "Illegal settlement detected," a robotic voice announced. "By order of the council, this zone will be cleansed." Panic spread instantly. People ran in every direction. A woman was shot before reaching the stairs. A child disappeared beneath falling debris. Kai grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and pulled his younger sister behind cover. The drones moved forward mercilessly. Cold, efficient, inhuman. One machine aimed directly at the children. Then suddenly, boom! The drone exploded. Gunfire erupted from the tunnel entrance as masked resistance fighters stormed into the bunker. "Move! Move!" one of them shouted. Kai watched in shock as the fighters destroyed drone after drone using stolen plasma weapons. Their armor carried no official insignia, only a red symbol painted across their shoulders. A phoenix rising from fire. The human resistance. One fighter removed her helmet. It was Commander Elias Varon. He looked around at the terrified survivors. "You're safe now," he said. For the first time in years, Kai felt something stronger than fear. Hope. And far above Earth, aboard the Council Citadel, warning alarms suddenly echoed through the palace halls. Valor stopped walking. An officer rushed into the chamber. "High Chancellor," the alien said urgently. "Multiple resistance attacks have erupted across Earth simultaneously." Valor's expression darkened. "How many?" The officer hesitated. "More than we have ever recorded before." Silence. Then Valor slowly smiled. Not with amusement, with anticipation. "So," he whispered, staring down at Earth, "humanity finally remembers what it is." And across the planet, hidden beneath ruined cities, abandoned tunnels, and forgotten wastelands, millions of humans prepared for war. The first ship appeared above Earth at exactly 3:17 Universal Time. No alarms sounded at first. People across the planet simply looked up and saw the stars disappearing. Entire sections of the night sky went dark as a colossal shadow emerged from hyperspace above the Pacific Ocean. Clouds twisted violently beneath the object while oceans churned like storms were forming from nowhere. Then came the panic. In Neo-Tokyo, millions flooded the streets staring upward in horror. Giant public screens immediately activated across every city on Earth. A council emergency broadcast. High Chancellor Valor appeared with his usual calm expression, but even he looked more tense than before. "Citizens of Earth," he announced, "remain indoors. Planetary security measures are now in effect." Behind him, warning symbols flashed red. People could see fear in the eyes of the alien officers surrounding him, and that terrified them more than the ship itself. Inside the resistance bunker beneath Old Cairo, every screen displayed the incoming vessel. Nobody spoke. The ship was impossible. Its metallic surface stretched across hundreds of kilometers, covered in glowing red lines that pulsed like veins beneath armor plating. Massive circular structures rotated slowly around its core while thousands of smaller warships emerged from openings along its sides. Kai stared at the image in disbelief. "That's one ship." Mira answered quietly, "No." She zoomed the scanners outward. Dozens more shadows appeared behind it. Then hundreds. The harvest fleet had arrived. A resistance officer stumbled backward. How do we fight that? Elias kept his eyes fixed on the screens. We don't fight the fleet directly, he said. Then what? Someone asked desperately. Elias turned toward them. We kill the council before they can use it. The room fell silent. It sounded impossible, maybe insane, but it was the only chance humanity had left. Suddenly Lyra Voss's hologram flickered alive again. Explosions echoed behind her as sparks rained across her command deck. They've started orbital positioning, she warned. Once the harvest fleet locks onto Earth's core, they can trigger planetary collapse. Kai frowned. Planetary collapse? Lyra looked directly at him. The fleet was designed during the first invasion. It destabilizes tectonic plates, ignites supervolcanoes, and poisons atmospheres. Entire civilizations vanish in hours. A horrible silence filled the bunker. One resistance fighter whispered, "They built a weapon to murder worlds." "No," Elias corrected grimly. "They built it to make examples." Mira looked at the tactical displays. "How long before the fleet reaches firing position?" "Less than 48 hours. Panic spread through the bunker instantly. "We can't evacuate billions of people. The cities will never believe us in time. The Council controls every network on Earth." Elias suddenly looked toward Kai. "How fast can information spread without the Council stopping it?" Kai blinked. "What? You grew up in the outer settlements," Elias said. "Black markets, underground systems, hidden channels. If someone wanted to bypass Council surveillance completely, how would they do it?" Kai hesitated only a second. "The old transit tunnels." Mira looked confused. Kai moved toward the holographic map quickly. Before the Council rebuilt Earth, humans used underground transport systems everywhere. Most were abandoned after the conquest. He highlighted ancient routes beneath major cities. But people still use parts of them secretly. Smugglers, refugees, workers. Information travels there faster than the Council realizes. Elias's eyes narrowed. Plan was forming. "Can you access them?" Kai nodded slowly. "Yes." "Good," Elias replied. "Because humanity needs the truth." Far above Earth, aboard the Harvest Fleet flagship, High Chancellor Vaylor stood inside a massive throne chamber surrounded by holographic star maps. The chamber itself felt alive. Dark metallic walls pulsed faintly, while enormous alien symbols rotated in the air around him. Rows of armored council commanders knelt before the throne platform. One officer stepped forward nervously. "Chancellor, resistance activity is increasing across all human sectors." Vaylor remained silent. "The population is becoming unstable." Another officer added, "Perhaps we should begin limited cleansing operations immediately." Vaylor finally spoke. "No." The officers looked confused. Vaylor slowly descended the throne steps. "Fear is most effective," he said calmly, "when hope survives just long enough to be destroyed." He looked toward Earth floating beneath the fleet. "I want humanity watching when their rebellion fails." Meanwhile, inside Neo-London, 16-year-old Arya Bennett ran through crowded alleyways carrying illegal data chips beneath her jacket. Council patrol drones searched the streets above. People whispered nervously everywhere she passed. The fleet had shattered the illusion of safety. Arya finally reached an old apartment building hidden behind abandoned factories. She climbed 6 flights of rusted stairs before entering a small room filled with computer screens and stolen communication equipment. A man looked up immediately. "You're late." "Security checkpoints everywhere," Arya replied breathlessly. "The city's locking down." The man inserted one of the chips into a terminal. Static filled the room. Then ancient footage appeared across every monitor. The original invasion, burning cities, council massacres. Arya swallowed hard. "Is all of it real?" The man nodded grimly. "Every second." She stared at the screen silently. All her life she had believed humanity was weak before the council arrived. Now she realized humanity had fought and lost. The terminal suddenly beeped. An encrypted signal appeared. Phoenix network active. The man looked shocked. No way. What is it? Arya asked. He turned toward her slowly. The resistance is broadcasting. Across Earth, hidden transmitters buried beneath cities and wastelands suddenly activated together. Ancient communication towers powered on for the first time in centuries, bypassing council systems entirely. Then Elias Varin appeared on screens across the planet. Not official screens. Hidden ones. Underground networks. Hijacked billboards. Secret projections against skyscrapers. Humanity saw him everywhere at once. My name is Elias Varin, he said calmly, and the council has lied to you for 1,000 years. People stopped in streets. Factories went silent. Entire neighborhoods gathered around illegal screens. Elias continued. The alien council did not save Earth. They conquered it. And now, because humanity resists again, they plan to destroy this planet completely. Behind him appeared images of the Harvest Fleet. Gasps erupted across cities worldwide. The fleet above Earth is not here for protection, Elias warned. It is here for extermination. Council authorities immediately attempted to jam the broadcast. But it kept spreading. Kai's underground tunnel system carried the signal faster than the council could block it. For the first time in history, humanity heard the truth unfiltered. We have one chance left, Elias said. Not as nations. Not as colonies. Not as survivors. He stepped closer to the camera. But as humans. The broadcast ended. And across Earth, something dangerous awakened inside billions of people. Anger. In Neo-Berlin, workers attacked council patrols with stolen tools. In South American mining sectors, entire labor camps revolted. In the Pacific cities, military recruits abandoned council bases. Humanity was rising faster than anyone predicted. Even Valor. Inside the Harvest Fleet command chamber, warning alarms echoed loudly. An officer rushed toward the Chancellor. Mass civilian unrest spreading globally. Valor's expression darkened for the first time. How extensive? The officer hesitated. Every continent. Silence filled the chamber. Then Valor slowly looked toward Earth again. And for the first time in centuries, the ruler of humanity felt uncertainty. Because humanity was doing something the council feared more than weapons. Humans were remembering who they were. Earth exploded into chaos before sunrise. Council drones burned in the streets of Neo-Sao Paulo, while civilians armed with stolen plasma rifles stormed security checkpoints across Asia and Europe. Massive factories stopped production as workers walked out by the millions, chanting the same words spreading across every underground network. Earth belongs to humanity. For 1,000 years, fear had kept humanity divided. Now fear was turning into rage. Inside the council citadel orbiting above Earth, emergency sirens echoed through metallic corridors as alien officials rushed between command chambers. Every screen showed rebellion, cities on fire, council statues collapsing, human crowds overwhelming armored patrols. An alien commander turned toward High Chancellor Valor nervously. We are losing control of the lower sectors. Valor stood motionless before the massive holographic display of Earth. Deploy suppression fleets, he ordered calmly. We already have, the commander replied. But resistance cells are coordinating civilian attacks faster than predicted. Another officer interrupted urgently. Several human security divisions have defected. That changed everything. The council had ruled Earth partly by using human forces against other humans. Police units, military divisions, city governors, all controlled by fear, privilege, or propaganda. But now entire sections of those forces were abandoning the council. Valor's golden eyes narrowed. How many defections? Unknown. For the first time in centuries, uncertainty filled the citadel. And uncertainty terrified the council. Meanwhile, beneath the ruins of Old Cairo, the resistance bunker had transformed into a war headquarters. Thousands of transmissions poured in every minute from rebel groups across the planet. Mira Chun studied the reports with growing disbelief. We've lost contact with 12 council-controlled prisons, she said. Resistance forces freed everyone inside. Another officer looked up from a terminal. Mining colonies in Australia are revolting too. And 3 orbital stations stopped responding to council commands, someone else added. Kai stared at the screens in shock. This many people were ready to fight? Elias stood beside him quietly. No, he replied. They were ready to hope. Before Kai could answer, alarms suddenly flashed across the command room. Incoming fleet movement. The hologram shifted instantly. Everyone froze. The harvest fleet was moving closer. Massive ships slowly repositioned around Earth like predators circling prey. Red energy pulses traveled across their hulls as gigantic weapon systems awakened one by one. Myra's face turned pale. They're preparing firing sequences. How long? Elias demanded. Maybe 20 hours. Silence crushed the room. 20 hours before Earth faced extinction. A resistance engineer suddenly stepped forward nervously. There may be another option. Everyone looked at him. He activated an old star map showing the interior structure of the Council Citadel. The Citadel controls the Harvest Fleet through a central neural core. If we destroy it, the fleet loses synchronization. Mira frowned. You're talking about attacking the most heavily defended structure in human history. The engineer nodded weakly. Yes. Kai looked between them. Could it work? Elias stared at the hologram. If we reach the core, he said slowly, the fleet becomes blind. Mira crossed her arms. And how exactly do we reach it? The Citadel has planetary shields, defense cannons, fighter swarms. Not from outside, Elias interrupted. Everyone turned toward him. Then he zoomed the map inward beneath the Citadel structure itself. There's an older route. The room fell silent. A maintenance shaft from the original invasion, Elias explained, before the Council rebuilt the Citadel into its current form. Myra's eyes widened slightly. You've been there. Elias nodded once. Years ago. Kai looked confused. You infiltrated the Citadel before? Elias didn't answer immediately. His expression darkened. Not willingly. Far above Earth, inside the throne chamber of the Citadel, Valor stood alone before a transparent wall overlooking the planet. Behind him, footsteps echoed softly. Advisor Celine entered quietly. The rebellions are spreading faster than expected, she said carefully. Valor remained silent. Celine studied him for a moment. You underestimated humanity. That finally made him turn. I underestimated time, Valor replied coldly. 1,000 years should have erased their instincts completely. But it didn't. No. The Chancellor walked slowly toward her. That is why humanity is dangerous. Celine lowered her voice. Then maybe they were never meant to be ruled. The air inside the chamber suddenly became tense. Valor stared directly into her eyes. You speak like one of them. Celine held his gaze. I am one of them. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Valor turned away again. When this ends, he said quietly, there will be nothing left of your species to defend. Meanwhile, deep inside Neo-Moscow, Arya Bennett ran through abandoned subway tunnels carrying resistance messages between underground cells. Above her, explosions shook the city. The rebellion was everywhere now. Council patrols fought civilians block by block while smoke poured between skyscrapers. Giant holographic propaganda towers flickered constantly as hackers hijacked public systems faster than the authorities could regain control. Arya finally reached a hidden shelter packed with survivors. Children huddled beside old generators while injured fighters received treatment on the floor. An older woman grabbed Arya's arm urgently. Tell me the truth, she whispered. Can we actually win? Arya hesitated. She thought about the harvest fleet hanging above Earth. About cities burning. About Elias's speech. Then she looked around the shelter. At exhausted people still refusing to surrender. Yes, she said softly. And for the first time, she believed it herself. Back inside the resistance bunker, Elias prepared the assault team. Only 12 fighters would enter the Citadel. Most would never return. Mira loaded plasma rounds into her rifle before looking toward Elias. You still haven't told them. Elias remained focused on the weapons table. There's nothing to tell. That's a lie. He stopped moving. Mira stepped closer. You were inside the Citadel because the Council captured you during the Titan Wars. Several nearby fighters looked shocked. Kai frowned. Titan Wars. Elias finally looked up. It was 30 years ago, he said quietly. The outer colonies launched a major rebellion against the Council. You fought in it? Kai asked. Elias nodded once. We lost. His voice sounded colder now. The Council killed millions. Entire colonies vanished. Myra's expression hardened. And Elias spent 2 years inside the Citadel after they captured him. Kai stared at Elias carefully. What did they do to you there? Silence. The entire room waited. Elias finally answered without emotion. They showed me what the Council really is. Nobody spoke after that. Because something in his eyes made it clear. Whatever Elias saw inside the Citadel still haunted him. Suddenly every screen in the bunker flashed red. A global emergency signal appeared. Then the image changed to High Chancellor Vaylor standing aboard the Harvest Fleet. His face filled every monitor on Earth. Attention, he announced calmly. Humanity has 12 hours remaining to surrender. Behind him, gigantic planetary weapons charged with growing red light. The rebellion ends now. Entire cities watched in silence. Vaylor's voice became colder. If Elias Varon does not surrender himself before the next planetary cycle, Earth will be cleansed. The transmission ended. No speeches. No negotiation. Just a countdown to extinction. Inside the bunker, everyone turned toward Elias. Kai swallowed nervously. What do we do now? Elias looked at the timer appearing across every screen on Earth. 11 hours 59 minutes and 42 seconds. 11 hours 59 minutes and 41 seconds. 11 hours 59 minutes and 40 seconds. Then he picked up his rifle. We go to war. The doorway opened with a sound like the planet itself groaning awake. Ancient metal plates slowly separated while freezing air poured through the tunnel. The darkness beyond felt unnatural, thick shadows twisting like smoke across walls covered in glowing alien symbols. Nobody moved. Even the hardened resistance fighters looked terrified. Kai swallowed hard. That doesn't look like a maintenance tunnel. It isn't, Elias replied quietly. Mira stepped beside him. The Council turned it into something else after the invasion. The remaining members of the assault team exchanged nervous looks before following Elias into the passage. The door sealed behind them instantly. Boom! Complete silence followed. Then the walls lit up. Blue energy pulsed through enormous circuits stretching endlessly into the distance. The corridor itself was colossal, far larger than anything humans should have built underground. Kai stared upward in disbelief. The ceiling vanished into darkness hundreds of meters above them. What is this place? He whispered again. Elias walked slowly ahead. A prison. The word echoed heavily through the corridor. Suddenly the floor beneath them vibrated. A deep mechanical hum spread through the tunnel walls like a heartbeat. Then voices appeared. Soft whispers. Thousands of them. Kai spun around nervously. Did you hear that? Everyone had. The whispers surrounded them from every direction, speaking in strange languages no human should understand. One resistance fighter backed away fearfully. This place is wrong. Mira checked her scanner. No life forms detected. The whispers grew louder. Kai could almost understand fragments now. Awaken. Return. Open the gate. He covered his ears. Make it stop. Elias grabbed his shoulder firmly. Don't listen to it. Kai looked up. What is it? Elias hesitated. Then he answered. The machine is trying to communicate. Far above them, aboard the Citadel, warning alarms suddenly erupted throughout the command decks. Alien officers rushed between stations while security systems flashed crimson across every screen. Unauthorized access detected beneath Sector 0. Vaylor stood immediately from his throne. Location. The officer's hands shook slightly. The underground core. Silence filled the chamber. Several commanders exchanged frightened looks. One finally spoke carefully. Chancellor, if they reach the core interface. They won't, Vaylor interrupted coldly, but for the first time in centuries, his voice carried tension. Because the underground core was never supposed to be reached again, especially not by humans. Meanwhile, deep inside the ancient structure beneath Earth, Elias and the team entered a gigantic chamber unlike anything they had ever seen. Kai stopped breathing. The room stretched for kilometers in every direction. Massive black pillars rose from a glowing abyss below, while giant circular machines rotated slowly in the darkness overhead. And at the center of everything, something enormous slept beneath transparent crystal. It looked almost biological. A machine larger than a city, covered in moving metallic veins pulsing with blue energy. Sections of it resembled bones. Others resembled circuitry. And everywhere across its surface, human symbols, ancient ones, older than recorded history. Mira looked horrified. It's real. Kai stared at her. You knew about this? Only fragments, she admitted quietly. Council archives mentioned an object beneath Earth discovered during the invasion. One of the fighters whispered, "This thing powers the Harvest Fleet?" Elias nodded slowly. The Council didn't create its technology. They found it here. Kai stepped closer toward the crystal barrier carefully. The machine suddenly pulsed brighter, and the whispers became louder. He could hear them clearly now. Not voices, thoughts. Images flooded his mind instantly. Stars exploding, worlds burning, alien civilizations collapsing beneath enormous black ships. Then Earth. Humans fighting impossible wars beneath skies filled with fire. Kai staggered backward, gasping. Elias caught him immediately. What did you see? Kai's hands trembled violently. It showed me. He struggled to breathe. The Council. Mira frowned. What about them? Kai looked terrified. They're running. Silence. What? Elias demanded. The Council didn't conquer Earth because they wanted power, Kai whispered. They came here because they were afraid. Suddenly the entire chamber shook violently. Red alarms ignited across the walls. Intrusion detected. Massive blast doors slammed shut around the room. Then mechanical sounds echoed from above. Something enormous was moving. Mira raised her rifle instantly. Contact incoming. The ceiling opened, and dozens of black armored figures descended into the chamber. Council execution troops. Elite soldiers rarely seen even during wars. Their armor looked almost insect-like, with glowing red visors and long energy blades attached to their arms. At their center stood a taller figure in silver armor. Vaylor himself. The Chancellor landed silently before the resistance team. The air became heavy immediately. Kai felt it at once, an overwhelming pressure radiating from him. Vaylor's golden eyes scanned the humans calmly. So, he said softly, you found the truth. Nobody moved. Weapons remained aimed. Vaylor barely seemed to notice. Elias stepped forward slowly. You're afraid of this machine. Vaylor looked toward the enormous structure beneath the crystal. Every intelligent species fears extinction, he replied. Kai clenched his fists. What is it? The Chancellor studied him briefly. Then, unexpectedly, he answered. It is called the Origin Engine. The whispers intensified. Vaylor continued calmly. Millions of years ago, an ancient civilization built this machine to control the evolution of intelligent life across galaxies. Mira frowned. That's impossible. No, Vaylor said quietly. What's impossible is what happened after. The chamber darkened suddenly. The Origin Engine pulsed brighter beneath them. It became self-aware. Silence consumed the room. Kai stared at the machine in horror. The engine began creating species designed for survival through endless war, Vaylor explained. Civilizations rose only to destroy each other stronger than before. Elias slowly realized the truth. And humanity? Vaylor looked directly at him. Humanity was its final creation. The words hit like explosions. No, Mira whispered. The Council discovered Earth centuries ago, Vaylor continued. We saw what humanity would become if left unchecked. Images suddenly appeared above the chamber. Future projections. Human fleets destroying alien worlds. Entire galaxies burning beneath human empires. Billions dead. Kai backed away shakily. That's not real. It is one possible future, Valor replied. Elias narrowed his eyes. So you enslaved humanity to stop it? Yes. The Chancellor showed no shame. For 1,000 years we suppressed your species, controlled your growth, reduced your aggression. Valor looked toward the machine again. But the engine has awakened. The chamber trembled harder now. Blue energy surged across the walls. The whispers became deafening. And now, Valor said grimly, humanity is evolving again. Suddenly one of the execution soldiers fired. The blast hit a resistance fighter instantly, killing him before anyone reacted. Chaos exploded across the chamber. Gunfire erupted everywhere as the resistance opened fire against the execution troops. Plasma bolts lit the darkness while alarms screamed overhead. Kai ducked behind cover beside Mira. What do we do? Mira fired repeatedly. We destroy the core. Elias fought directly toward Valor through the chaos. The Chancellor moved with terrifying speed, cutting through resistance fighters effortlessly using glowing energy blades hidden beneath his sleeves. 2 fighters fell instantly. A third was thrown across the chamber with impossible force. Elias slammed into Valor violently. Both crashed against the crystal barrier surrounding the Origin engine. For a moment they stared at each other face to face. You still don't understand, Valor growled. Elias punched him hard enough to crack alien armor. Then explain it while Earth burns. The crystal barrier suddenly shattered behind them, and the Origin engine opened its eyes. The moment the Origin engine opened its eyes, reality itself seemed to pause. A low, endless sound rolled through the chamber. Not an explosion, not a voice, but something deeper, like the planet inhaling for the first time in millions of years. Blue light erupted across the massive machine beneath the crystal floor, racing through its organic metal veins. The entire underground structure responded instantly, as if every wall, every tunnel, every hidden system had been waiting for this exact moment. Kai couldn't breathe. The air felt heavier, charged with something unnatural. What is happening? He shouted. No one answered, because no one understood anymore. Above them, Council execution troops and resistance fighters were still locked in brutal combat. Plasma fire lit the chamber like a storm of lightning. Bodies fell. Armor shattered. The war inside the Origin chamber had become pure chaos. But all of it started fading into the background, because the machine was waking up fully now. And it was noticing them. A single pulse spread outward from its core. Instantly, every weapon in the chamber shut down. Every drone fell silent. Even Valor's energy blades flickered and died mid-motion. The entire battlefield froze. Kai looked down at his rifle. It was dead weight now. Mira tried her weapon. Nothing. What did it do? She whispered. Elias stared at the Origin engine with grim realization. It turned off violence. Silence followed. Then the machine spoke. Not aloud. Inside their minds. Children of war, return. The words hit like gravity collapsing. Kai dropped to his knees, clutching his head. It's inside my thoughts. Mira staggered. Everyone, don't listen to it. But it was already too late. The Origin engine was everywhere. Elias stood still, resisting it. Valor also did not move. Both of them were fighting something unseen. The machine continued. You were built to survive conflict, but not peace. Images flooded the chamber. Ancient galaxies, civilizations rising and collapsing in endless cycles. Then Earth. Humanity evolving through fire, war, suffering, adaptation. Kai saw visions of humanity becoming something unrecognizable, spreading across stars, consuming entire systems, reshaping physics itself. Then extinction, then rebirth, then war again. It was endless. A loop. Mira gasped. It's showing us evolution cycles. Valor finally spoke, struggling against the mental pressure. It predicts every outcome. Elias turned toward him sharply. So this is what you feared? Valor nodded slowly. The Council did not enslave humanity for power, he said. We did it because every time a species reaches a certain threshold. He looked at the engine. It awakens. The origin engine pulsed brighter. Yes, Kai suddenly screamed. A vision hit him harder than before. Human fleets burning alien worlds. Valor's species collapsing under human expansion. Entire civilizations kneeling or dying. He saw himself older, changed, leading armies across galaxies. Then he saw Earth destroyed in retaliation. He collapsed, shaking. I don't want this, he whispered. Elias grabbed him firmly. It's not happening. It's just prediction. But Elias didn't sound fully convinced. The engine responded again. Prediction is pathway. Reality follows possibility. The chamber shook violently. Cracks spread across the crystal barrier. The origin engine was no longer dormant. It was thinking, and it was choosing. Suddenly Valor raised his hand. Enough! All eyes turned toward him. Even the engine paused. Valor looked at Elias. If humanity continues its rebellion, he said quietly, the engine will accelerate your species' evolution curve. Mira frowned. Meaning what? Valor's voice hardened. Meaning humanity will become what I tried to prevent. Kai stepped forward weakly. Then stop us from fighting. Valor looked at him with something almost like sadness. I already did, he said. Silence. Elias narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Valor turned slightly toward the chamber's core systems. The Council's suppression of humanity has always been a balancing act. Too much control and the engine destabilizes. Too little control and humanity evolves too quickly. The engine pulsed again. Agreement. Imbalance detected. Valor continued urgently now. The rebellion, the harvest fleet, even your resistance. None of it is random. The engine is forcing all sides into conflict to trigger the next stage. Kai looked horrified. Next stage of what? Valor hesitated. Transcendence. The word echoed like a curse. Suddenly, explosions rocked the upper tunnels again. More Council reinforcements were arriving. But something was wrong. Even they hesitated at the chamber entrance. Because they could feel it too. The engine's presence. Elias turned toward the chaos. We don't have time for philosophy, he said sharply. We end this now. He grabbed a fallen energy blade, the only weapon still flickering weakly. Valor stepped between him and the core. If you destroy it, Valor warned, you collapse all predictive timelines. Elias didn't stop. And if we don't? Valor looked at him directly. Then humanity becomes what it was always designed to become. Kai slowly stood again, still shaking. So there's no winning? The engine answered before anyone else. There is only transformation. Suddenly everything went white. The origin engine unleashed a pulse so powerful it rippled through the entire underground structure, through the citadel above, through orbiting fleets, and across Earth itself. For one instant, every human on the planet froze. Every Council soldier stopped. Every machine went silent. And in that silence, humanity heard the engine, not as words, but as possibility. Then reality resumed, and the war changed forever. When reality resumed, nothing felt stable anymore. Across Earth, people collapsed in the streets clutching their heads. Council soldiers froze mid-command. Resistance fighters dropped their weapons, gasping as unfamiliar visions burned through their minds like fire. The origin engine's pulse hadn't just been local. It had touched everything. Inside the underground chamber beneath Old Rome, Kai slowly opened his eyes. The world looked the same but felt completely wrong. Like the laws of physics were slightly uncertain. Mira staggered beside him. Did you feel that? Elias didn't answer immediately. He was staring at his hands. Even Valor was silent now. The origin engine beneath the shattered crystal was still awake. But now it was no longer just communicating. It was projecting. Across Earth's surface, strange phenomena began appearing. In Neo-Paris, gravity briefly reversed in a single street before snapping back. In the Pacific deserts, Sand rose into perfect geometric shapes and then dissolved. In Neo-Cairo, people reported hearing voices speaking languages that had not yet been invented. The Council Citadel alarms screamed non-stop. But no system could isolate the source, because the source was everything. Inside the chamber, the engine spoke again. The cycle is unstable. Valor clenched his fists. "This is what I warned you about," he said harshly. "Human rebellion accelerates instability." Elias stepped forward. "You've been controlling humanity for 1,000 years, he said. "And still you call us the problem?" Valor turned sharply. "I have been delaying extinction." Kai interrupted suddenly. "But you also said humanity is the engine's final creation." Silence. Valor didn't deny it. Mira narrowed her eyes. "Then why does it feel like the engine is reacting to us, not controlling us?" The origin engine answered. "Because you are no longer contained." The chamber shook violently again. Cracks in space itself began appearing along the walls, thin fractures of light bending in impossible directions. One resistance fighter screamed as his arm flickered between positions like reality couldn't decide where it belonged. "What's happening to him?" Kai shouted. Elias pulled him back. "Don't look at the fractures." But it was too late. Kai looked anyway, and saw something beyond the cracks. Not tunnels, not metal, but other versions of the chamber. Infinite overlapping realities layered on top of each other. In one, the resistance had already won. In another, Earth was already gone. In another, Valor stood alone over a dead galaxy. Kai stumbled backward in horror. "It's showing all possible futures at once." Valor nodded grimly. "The engine is collapsing timelines into visibility." The origin engine pulsed again. "Observation is collapse. Reality is choice." Suddenly, the Citadel intrusion alarms intensified. More Council execution troops poured into the chamber, but they didn't fire immediately. They hesitated, because even they could see the fractures now. One soldier lowered his weapon slightly. "Chancellor, what is that?" Valor didn't answer. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Elias turned toward Mira. "We destroy it now," he said firmly. Mira shook her head. "We don't even know what it is anymore. It's not just a machine. It's rewriting reality perception." Kai suddenly spoke, voice trembling. "What if it's not rewriting it?" Everyone looked at him. "What if it's showing us what was always there?" Silence again. Even Elias hesitated slightly. Then Valor stepped forward slowly. "If you destroy the origin engine," he said, "all stabilized timelines collapse. The Council loses control. Humanity loses containment." Mira frowned. "Containment of what?" Valor looked at Elias directly. "Of itself." The chamber shook harder. The fractures widened. And for a brief moment, Elias saw something that froze him completely. A version of himself standing in a future battlefield. Not fighting aliens. Not fighting machines. But leading humanity across dead worlds. Not as a savior. As something else. Something worse. He stepped back slightly. Kai noticed instantly. "Elias." But Elias didn't respond. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure what he was fighting anymore. The origin engine spoke again. Choice required. Then it revealed a new vision. A single outcome. A stabilized timeline. Humanity evolving peacefully across stars. No council. No war. No extinction. But also, no individuality. No conflict. No free deviation. Perfect system. A controlled evolution. Mira whispered, "That's not humanity." Valor replied quietly, "It is survival without chaos." Elias finally raised his weapon again. "No," he said, "that's not survival. That's erasure." The chamber fell silent. Even the engine paused. Then Kai stepped forward. "I see it differently," he said softly. Everyone turned toward him. Kai looked at the origin engine. "I think it's asking us something." Mira frowned. "Asking what?" Kai swallowed. "Which version of humanity do we want to become?" The fractures in reality pulsed brighter. The engine responded. Final input required. And for the first time in history, humanity wasn't being judged. It was being asked. Choose. The word choose did not echo. It existed everywhere at once. Inside minds. Inside air. Inside the cracks of reality itself. Kai felt it pressing against his thoughts like an invisible hand trying to guide his decision, but not forcing it. That was what made it worse. The origin engine wasn't commanding them. It was waiting. Inside the shattered underground chamber, silence stretched across both sides of the war. Resistance fighters held weapons they no longer trusted. Council execution troops stood frozen, unsure whether firing was even meaningful anymore. Even Valor did not move. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, staring at the glowing core beneath the crystal. Mira whispered, "If we choose wrong, what happens?" No one answered, because no one knew what wrong even meant anymore. The engine pulsed again, reality branching imminent. Kai suddenly staggered. His vision split. He saw Earth in two overlapping layers. In one layer, cities burned forever in endless war, humanity evolving through violence, spreading across galaxies like wildfire. In another, Earth was peaceful, but lifeless in emotion. No conflict, no rebellion, no invention born from struggle. Just perfect, silent order. Two futures, both terrifying. Kai whispered, "Neither of these is right." Mira looked at him sharply. "There has to be another option." The engine responded instantly. Limited outcome set. Valor finally spoke, voice low. "There is no third path. There never has been." Elias turned toward him. "That's what you've been doing for 1,000 years," he said bitterly. "Forcing humanity into your version of survival?" Valor didn't deny it. "I chose the least extinction-prone path." Kai stepped forward again, shaking. "But you're still choosing for us." Silence. That hit differently. Even Valor paused. The engine pulsed again, slightly faster now. Decision window closing. Reality fractures widened across the chamber. The resistance fighters began to panic. "We don't have time for this," one shouted. "We're about to be erased or rewritten." Mira turned to Elias urgently. "We destroy it. Now." Elias didn't answer immediately. For the first time, his certainty was breaking. Kai noticed. "You're hesitating," he said quietly. Elias looked at him sharply. Kai continued, "You've been fighting the Council because they controlled humanity." He gestured toward the engine. "But now, what if controlling us was the only thing stopping something worse?" That statement hit the chamber like a shockwave. Mira snapped, "Don't start believing them." Kai shook his head. "I'm not. I'm trying to understand." The engine responded again. "Understanding is alignment." Valor stepped forward slightly. "Humanity is not stable on its own," he said. "You are adaptive. That means unpredictable. And unpredictability leads to extinction-scale events." Elias replied coldly, "So your solution is to cage us forever?" Valor's voice softened slightly. "My solution is to guide you until you can survive yourselves." Kai suddenly looked between them both. "And who decides when that happens?" Silence. No answer. Because there wasn't one. The engine pulsed brighter. Branch point identified. Suddenly, the chamber shifted again. The fractures expanded violently, and now they were not just visual. They were physical. Sections of the room began shifting into alternate versions of themselves. In one fragment, Elias was dead. In another, Valor was kneeling before human commanders. In another, the origin engine had already merged with Earth's surface. Kai screamed, stumbling back. "It's collapsing everything." Mira grabbed him. "Stay focused." But Elias was no longer looking at the battlefield. He was looking at the futures. Something inside him had changed. Kai noticed immediately. "You're seeing something, aren't you?" Elias didn't answer. Instead, he whispered, "It already happened." Mira froze. "What did?" Elias looked toward the engine. "All of it." The chamber went silent. Valor's expression darkened. "You touched the recursive timeline." Kai stepped back slowly. "What does that mean?" Elias finally spoke. It means every outcome we are seeing has already been seen and chosen before. Silence dropped like a stone. Mira whispered, "That's impossible." But even she didn't sound certain anymore. The engine responded. Cycle confirmed. Kai shook his head violently. No, that means we don't have a choice." The engine answered instantly. "Choice is the illusion of repeat." Valor closed his eyes briefly. "This is what I tried to prevent." Elias raised his weapon again, but his hands were shaking now. "So what are we?" he said. "Just variables in a machine's experiment?" The engine responded. "You are the breakpoint." Suddenly, everything stopped. The fractures froze. The war froze. Even breath seemed suspended. Then the engine revealed something new. The third vision. Not war. Not silence. But transformation. Humanity evolving, but not through control or chaos. Through self-awareness. Through understanding the system and rewriting it. Kai stared at it. This is different." Mira narrowed her eyes. "It looks unstable." Valor shook his head. "It is untested." Elias lowered his weapon slightly. Kai stepped forward slowly. "What if that's the point?" Silence. Then the engine spoke for the final time in this moment. "Undefined path exists. Requires human input." And suddenly, every person in the chamber felt it. Not pressure. Not fear. But responsibility. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, no one else was choosing for humanity. And Earth was waiting. The chamber did not feel real anymore. It felt like a place that existed between decisions. Every breath Kai took seemed to split into multiple versions of itself. Every heartbeat echoed into different futures. The origin engine no longer projected visions, it was letting reality wait. And in that waiting, everything mattered. The final path hovered in the center of the chamber like a fracture in space shaped into light. Undefined path. Active. Kai stared at it, trembling. "This is it," he whispered. "This is the third option." Mira looked exhausted, almost angry. "It doesn't feel like an option. It feels like a trap that doesn't know what it is yet." Valor stood still, watching the engine like it was an old enemy he had never fully understood. Elias kept his weapon lowered now, but not gone. Because nothing here was simple enough to be destroyed anymore. The origin engine pulsed softly. "Requires human input." Silence followed. Not empty silence. Heavy silence. The kind that decides civilizations. Kai took one step forward. Immediately, vision surged, not forced this time, but responsive. He saw humanity spreading across stars without losing itself. He saw council systems transforming into guidance networks instead of control systems. He saw war reduced, not erased but understood. He saw choice remaining intact. Not perfection. Not extinction. Something unstable. Something alive. Kai whispered, "It's not giving us control. It's giving us direction." Mira frowned. Direction toward what? Kai hesitated. Toward becoming something that can survive itself. Valor's voice broke the tension. "That path has always existed," he said quietly. "But it has never stabilized." Elias looked at him sharply. "Why?" Valor's eyes stayed on the engine. "Because intelligent life always collapses into extremes. Control or chaos. Order or destruction." Kai shook his head. "But we're not the same anymore. We've seen the system. We know what's happening." The engine responded instantly. Awareness increases stability probability. The chamber trembled, but differently now. Not collapsing. Aligning. Mira slowly lowered her weapon. "This is insane," she whispered. "We're negotiating with reality itself." Elias stepped closer to Kai. "You understand what you're suggesting?" he asked. Kai swallowed. "That we stop trying to win," he said, "and start trying to understand." Silence. Even the remaining council soldiers hesitated at those words. Valor finally spoke. "And if understanding fails?" Kai looked at him. "Then we try again." The engine pulsed brighter. Iterative evolution model accepted. Suddenly, the fractures in reality began to stabilize. Not disappearing but organizing. Like chaos learning structure. Like possibility becoming system. The chamber slowly stopped shifting. The war outside, above Earth, in cities across fleets was still happening. But something had changed beneath it. A new layer had formed. Elias looked around slowly. "This doesn't end the war," he said quietly. Kai nodded. "No," he agreed. "It changes what the war is for." Valor closed his eyes briefly. "For the first time," he said, "the Council no longer holds the only steering function." Mira looked up sharply. "Meaning?" Valor answered simply. "Meaning humanity is now part of the system." A long silence followed. Then the Origin engine spoke one final time. Breakpoint achieved. Evolution initiated. And in that moment, the Harvest fleet above Earth stopped firing. Council systems across the galaxy flickered. Human resistance networks paused mid-conflict. Not because they were ordered to, but because every system, organic and artificial, was suddenly aware of something new. They were no longer separate. They were connected in a single unfolding process. Elias lowered his weapon fully now. "So what happens next?" he asked quietly. No one answered immediately, because there was no script anymore. Only continuation. Kai looked at the engine, then at the others. "I think," he said slowly, "we just started." Above them, Earth still burned in places. But for the first time in 1,000 years, it was not the end of humanity. It was the beginning of something that no one, not even the Origin engine, could fully predict. And somewhere in the silence between stars, the universe waited to see what humanity would become next.